Hello again, friends, and welcome to the channel. My name is Brian, and I'm a newly retired chemistry professor from Ursinus College, and my wife is a retired employee at AstraZeneca Pharmaceuticals. We're in our late 50s, and we own a Dodge ProMaster conversion van, and we started this channel a few years ago called This Fantastic Life, about our travels throughout the country in our conversion van. In today's episode, we're going to talk to you about part of our recent 53-day cross-country adventure where we spent 4 days in the Canadian Rockies. Specifically, we're going to talk about the 5 parks that we visited in the Canadian Rockies: Waterton Lakes, which is an part of the International Peace Park with Glacier National Park just north of Montana in Alberta province, and then a cluster of 4 Canadian national parks that are a little bit farther north, and about 2 hours west of Calgary is Banff National Park, and just north of Banff, also in Alberta province, is Jasper National Park, and then to the west of Banff in British Columbia is Yoho, and also a smaller park there called Kootenay National Park. First off, there are a couple differences between the Canadian Rockies and the American Rocky Mountains. The Canadian Rocky Mountains are primarily sedimentary rock, so for example limestone and shale, and they're more jagged in their mountain peaks because of glaciation. The American Rockies are more igneous and metamorphic in nature, and they're composed of gneiss and granite. We began our trip in Banff National Park, which is about 2 hours west of Calgary. It costs $11 a day to get into the parks, $9.50 if you're a senior, under 17 is free, and they'll give you this beautiful information book with maps. Here we are driving into the park. There's a picture of our daughter from our 2010 trip, and a view of the town of Banff from Tunnel Mountain. Our first stop on this trip was at Surprise Corner Overlook, which is across the Bow River, and you have great springs of the Fairmont Banff Springs Hotel. There's the Bow River in the foreground. From there you can cross over the Bow River to the opposite side where the hotel is located and see Bow Falls. You can go into the dining room area of the hotel and look at the splendor of this. This was built by the Canadian Pacific Railway. And then we drove up the Tunnel Mountain Road to views of the hoodoos. You can also walk a trail down to the hoodoos and look at them up close. My daughter really enjoyed doing that when she was younger, climbing up on the hoodoos. From up on Tunnel Mountain Overlook, there are some great views back of the hotel and the Bow River. We also happened to see a deer there while we were on the trail. After that, we went a little bit west of the town of Banff on Vermilion Lakes Road. And this is great in the early evening. It's awesome for seeing elk here. And you get great reflections of Trouble Mountain in the Vermilion Lakes. Next, we drove out the Banff Avenue to Two Jack Lake and Lake Minnewanka. Every time we've been to Two Jack Lake, we've always seen some wildlife out here. You got your paddle boarders, And this is a great place to spot bighorn sheep. The bighorn sheep are distinguished from the mountain goats, and they have the really rounded horns on them. We've also seen herds of mountain goats in the area. There's a little one springing through the meadow. A little farther down the road is Lake Minnewanka, where you can also see bighorn sheep. This is a little more secluded and private lake. You won't see as many people out there. Leaving Banff, if you drive on Highway 1 North, you'll see these wildlife bridges. Bridges that were intentionally designed as corridors for the wildlife to be able to cross over the highway without getting hit by traffic. After a while, you can turn onto Highway 1A, which is called the Bow Valley Parkway, and it takes you up along the edge of the Bow River to a couple places of interest. The first one being Johnston Canyon, and the second one being Castle Mountain, and then you'll wind up at the Lake Louise Ski Resort. The Bow Valley Parkway is a great place to see wildlife. We've seen elk and deer along this corridor on a number of trips. Here we are at Johnston Canyon, which is a popular place where you can go hiking. I think it's about a 3-mile round trip hike to see Lower Johnston Canyon Falls. At the Lower Falls, there's a little tunnel or a cave that you can go into to give you a closer view of the falls. And then farther up the trail along this boardwalk, you will encounter Upper Johnston Canyon Falls, which is the larger of the two. Then continuing north on the Bow Valley Parkway, the next item of interest is called Castle Mountain. We stayed at a campground near Castle Mountain. And then you get to the Lake Louise Ski Resort. Nowadays, you have to have a reservation in order to go to see Lake Louise and Moraine Lake, the two popular attractions in Banff National Park. The required shuttle costs $8 per person, or $4 if you're a senior, plus a $3 online booking fee. And it will take you to either lake or both lakes. Here we are at Lake Louise and the famous Chateau Lake Louise Hotel. You can hike around Lake Louise. It was raining this time when we were at Lake Louise. Or you can take the hike from Lake Louise up past Mirror Lake and Lake Agnes to a Japanese tea house where they sell over 50 different varieties of tea. Lake Louise is famous for its turquoise colored water, which is due to silt from the glaciation, and the size of the silt particles is what reflects off that turquoise color. Here's the Japanese tea house up at Lake Agnes, and the High Line Trail, and then views back of the chateau across Lake Louise. This is bear country, so you want to take your bear spray. Then we take the shuttle bus over to Moraine Lake. Moraine Lake, when the sun is out, is deep blue in color. You can walk along the shoreline here, and there's a big rock pile behind the lake that you can climb up, or you can go around the back of the rock pile and take the trail, but we climbed up the rock pile, figuring the rock scramble was a bit of fun. And then we have great views of Moraine Lake with the rugged mountain range in the background. Again, it rained while we were there this trip, and I huddled down with my poncho under an evergreen tree. And then after about an hour, the sun came out and we had these beautiful views of the blue water and Moraine Lake. It's probably my favorite of the lakes in the Canadian Rockies. Taking Highway 1 west over the Continental Divide takes you from Banff into Yoho National Park. Yoho National Park is in British Columbia province. There are a number of interesting features here, the first of which is Takkakaw Falls, which is back a dirt unimproved road and about a 0.8 kilometer round trip hike to one of Canada's largest waterfalls at 380 meters. Then you can go to the Spiral Tunnel Overlook. We happened to get there right at the nick of time to see a train coming through. So this is in the Kicking Horse Pass at 5,338 feet elevation. So named after James Hector, whose horse was kicked him while he was trying to rescue another horse in a river during the 1858 Palliser expedition. The spiral tunnels were built in 1909 to reduce the grade of the railroad tracks in order to minimize accidents. So the train goes from west to east and then goes into the tunnel east to west and then comes out of another tunnel west to east again. So it's going in the same direction, but the total grade is only 2.2%. Canadian Pacific Railway was built to link British Columbia and the eastern provinces. If you look closely here, you can see the train going in all three directions. It's really fascinating to watch, actually. Alright, so farther on into Yoho National Park, we come to the Kicking Horse River and Natural Bridge. Here's the Kicking Horse River. Right before it enters into the natural bridge, which carved out through years of erosion. And there is the view of the Kicking Horse River downstream of the natural bridge. Continuing just a little bit up the road from Natural Bridge, you'll arrive at my second favorite lake in the Canadian Rockies, which is called Emerald Lake. And here you can rent a canoe for, I think it's $90 Canadian per hour. Absolutely beautiful emerald colored water here. Nice place to eat as well. And then just south of Yoho National Park is the small national park called Kootenay, where we saw these mountain goats and where they have the Radium Hot Springs. As we cross the Continental Divide halfway through our video, now would be a great time to remind you to click that notifications bell and hit the subscribe button in the lower right hand corner of your screen. That little band icon there costs you absolutely nothing. You just sign up and you'll get notifications about our future videos. This will really help us out in our channel development. Thank you very much. After returning back over the Continental Divide to Banff National Park, we continued up the Icefields Parkway, or 93 North. The Icefield Parkway is one of the greatest drives in all of North America. Driving north from Banff National Park on the Icefields Parkway, we first stopped at a place called Hector Lake. Here we have some great reflections in the water early in the morning. Then continuing north, we encountered the Crowfoot Glacier. See the difference here between my picture from 2010 and this video from 2024. How much the glacier has already receded in just that short time frame. Continuing a little farther north, we arrive at Peyto Lake. And then one of my favorite stops along the Icefields Parkway is at Peyto Lake. It's a steep 700-meter incline from the parking lot to the overlook, but just look at this beautiful turquoise blue water here and the unusual shape. You can see where the toe of the glacier used to be that fed the water that now is what's known as Peyto Lake. Right there you can see the end of the glacier. Just look at this stunning contrast there between the blue of the lake and the green evergreens. And then we continue our drive north on the Icefields Parkway. We got great views of the Saskatchewan River here. This is the majestic Maligne Canyon. We continue our drive north. Some more views of the braided nature of the rivers here. The rivers are so full of silt that they deposit the silt and then they have to find a new course, a new way around. Here are some beautiful reflections in Waterfowl Lake. And then the farther north you get, the more rugged the landscape is. You begin to see the edge of the Columbia Icefield. Here's the Weeping Wall. Some fireweed. Absolutely beautiful snow-capped mountains. And then this marks the border between Banff and Jasper National Park. The landscape in Jasper is a little more rugged. Here we are at the Columbia Icefields Visitor Center. This was in 2010 where we took a snow coach tour up onto the Athabasca Glacier. You can still do this tour. It's just amazing to be able to walk on the glacier itself. And now they've added this new skywalk as part of their tourism attraction. I think it costs 46 Canadian dollars to go on the skywalk and have views of the valley. As we pass into Jasper and head farther north on the Icefields Parkway, our next stop is at Sunwapta Falls. And then we continue our journey north. To Athabasca Falls. This is the view downstream from Athabasca Falls. As the river widens and it's less narrow, so There's less roaring and pressure. And then continuing on a side spur off the Icefields Parkway at Athabasca Falls, we head out the windy road up to the parking lot for Mt Edith Cavell, and we take the Plain of Glaciers trail. And from here you can see, in this case, the frozen Cavell Pond and Angel Glacier looming overhead. The path of the Glacier Trail is 5.6 mile round trip. Finally, we end up in the town of Jasper, which is on the northern end of the Icefields Parkway. They have some historic railroad station here. And then we explore another part of Jasper National Park, which is the Maligne Canyon. Very steep and old canyon. And continuing out that road, we encounter Medicine Lake. We saw a bald eagle nest here. And then at the very end of the road is the Maligne Lake and Spirit Island. You can also rent a boat here at the Maligne Lake Boathouse. And that concludes our tour of Jasper National Park. This is just some footage on the drive out of the park and a picture of Talbot Lake. The fifth national park is Waterton Lakes National Park. This one is not located with the other four. It's on the U.S. border with Glacier National Park, which is in Montana. It's still in Alberta province, and it's most famous for the Prince of Wales Hotel, which sits high on a perch overlooking Waterton Lake. It's an absolutely beautiful hotel. Here's the main entrance and the view from the main lobby. If you just drive a little bit down the hill from the Prince of Wales Hotel to the town of Waterton, you can see the Cameron Falls. And there's also a campground down there and a lovely place to picnic along the edge of Waterton Lake. Well, friends, hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for your support of our channel. We really appreciate it. Again, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so now. And we look forward to seeing you on more adventures in the future. Until next time, happy travels.